Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Sparesbox. Today we're back on the IS200. A lot of you guys have been asking us to do something with it, get it back on camera. So here it is. We've actually been mucking around with it a little bit off camera, done one track day and one wet skid pan day. At the track day, the rear diff got super hot and actually cooked the diff fluid. I have changed the fluid since then and it's been okay, but we've only done a wet pan. But with all that overheating in mind, today we're going to be fitting an oversized rear diff hat, and we're also going to be doing a external oil cooler. So it's something that I haven't done before. So we're going to be doing the cooler, the plumbing and an electric pump, because there's no pump in the diff in the IS200. Some diffs do have a pump. This one is not one of those. So we've got to make all aftermarket external stuff work. However, Raceworks do a lot of that kind of gear, so it's going to allow us to basically do the whole fit out and get everything sorted. So without further ado, we're going to go straight up, pull the diff out so we can change the cover. Then we're going to start running lines and doing all sorts of other funky stuff. Let's get into it. So you may or may not be wondering why I've just gone and basically killed the whole car by cutting the floor out. It's a track car, it's not a street car. Having the boot floor out of Adam's car has actually made it a lot easier to do diff changes. And if this thing does start to eat diffs, I want it to be pretty simple to work on at the track. Also, we're going to be actually putting the diff cooler in the area that the spare wheel well was. You obviously see me just quickly hack it off. We are going to do it a lot neater later. But for now, to just quickly speed things along, I'll just whip that out. So we're going to be trimming it up neater, and I'm also going to put some 50x50 box section to stiffen this whole beaver panel up, because now there's nothing retaining the bottom half of it, and it does need to be trimmed more anyway. But yeah, basically just trimmed out what we needed to continue with the job, and later on we'll neaten it all up and strengthen it and then resheet it. So it will still be sealed. There will be just a flat piece of probably steel, and that'll just neaten that up, and then we can just sort of mount everything today and keep going. we've made a stack of progress. We've got pretty much all the hardware all mounted up now. We've got obviously our pump mounted and our oil cooler. You guys have just seen us fold up the brackets, do a couple of nutserts, and get it all in there. So now we're up to the point of wiring it, but what I do want to do first is basically just power the pump to make sure that the system is working correctly before we go to the effort of wiring it all up and running wiring and then taking it off the hoist only to have to put it back on and lift it up again. So basically we're just going to power it up, and I'll undo the fitting on the return side of the cooler. Second oil there, basically we know it's all circulating as it should. We did overfill the diff when it was on the stand. It may need more oil, it may be too full, so we'll see what happens. Once we've got that oil circulating to here, we know that the system's effectively full, because trying to fill this whole thing with over 2 litres is a bit of a mission, because you've got to use one of those silly little hand pumps if it's in the car. So trying to get as much oil as we can into the diff first will minimise potentially having to pump another litre and a bit into the diff. So we'll power it up and see where we're at. Well, that's us pretty much done for the day. We've got our rear mounted oil cooler for the diff all set up. We've got all of our wiring completed. We didn't mention previously, but I'll run down quickly how we wired the relay. Basically, we picked up constant power from the head unit wire, which was a pretty high current wire, and we also picked up the accessory and the ground wire in there. Then we've basically used those three to drive a relay, and then that's just run power and earth back to the pump mounted under the car. So just nice, simple install. I was actually going to run an external switch to be able to turn on and off, but because the relay is internally fused, I can just pull the fuse out and that'll do exactly the same thing. In saying that, I don't really see a reason to not run that pump all the time, because if we're on a wet pan, you're going to be having a lot of low vehicle speed, or sorry, low airspeed but high wheel speed. So the diff will be working quite hard considering the airflow over just the diff itself. So that cooler will definitely help. Basically, these are all just preventative things to hopefully isolate against replacing the diff or rebuilding the diff down the track. We are going to push this thing harder down the track as well, so potentially either make more power with the 1G or do some sort of engine swap. We're not going to put a Barra in it. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but we've got plenty of other Barra stuff on the go, so it doesn't really make sense to have all of our cars pretty much running Barras. But we're pretty much going to pack it up for the day. All the parts are going to be in the link in the description on the Sparesbox page. We're going to run through all the parts we used in this particular setup that were supplied by those guys or Raceworks. So if you want to source those things directly through Sparesbox, you can. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.